Just like I mentioned earlier, the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security is already seated here. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi CON as he comes on stage for his goodwill message. Please let's sustain the applause until he gets here. You're welcome.
Thank you. Please sit down. Please sit down. Sorry. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I think the last time I was in this hall, it wasn't this way. From that time to now, some innovative actions have taken place. And the theme is innovative governance models. So I think you guys did the right choice of making this place your venue. So thank you very much, Sahel, for having me. First, let me apologize for not being here early in the morning. I should have been here, but like you very well know, this is a very busy session for us. We have a program in Ibadan. I was actually supposed to have traveled to Ibadan, but for the fact that we had Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday, and the program in Ibadan is on farmer soil health scheme, which is another innovative model of soil management we're trying to bring for Nigerian farmers. And the Ibadan meeting is supposed to be a consultative stakeholder meeting to look at all the issues with a view to having a robust scheme. So I had to also join them online. So I just finished joining them before coming here. So thank you very much for having me. I understand we were supposed to have presented a paper. I apologize. I think a number of the directors were having so many things here and there. But let me say that we are asked to tell you our policy focus. And I think because that is what we're doing, I will be able to speak to it even extempo, and I will do that. Now, the other aspect is that you want us to also identify areas of synergy and collaborative opportunities. Definitely, when you talk about innovation, you are talking about collaboration and you are talking about synergy. It's not possible for you to innovate when those two elements are out of the mix. And I think your choice of asking us to speak to that is also very apt. But let me put some context clear. Definitely, Nigeria's food system is not in the best of place. But is it just Nigeria? Definitely no. The global food system itself is currently challenged. And we all know we have more than 733 million people who are currently suffering in terms of hunger. And Nigeria has its own fair share of that number. And that is why the challenge before all of us is more germane and profound. And I think programs and forums like this offer us opportunity to rub minds, because from the array of participants, I know there are people from government, from development partners, from NGOs, both national and international, private sector and the like. Now, let me say also that our food security situation is exacerbated more by certain things, notably the insecurity that we have been battling. And I will speak to that also in terms of impact on our food. Then secondly, the issue of climate change, in which case we are having severe flooding across many of our states. And accompanying that also are the challenges of pests and diseases, which definitely are impacting on some farms. But beyond all of this, We are also dealing with low fertilizer usage, which means our farmers are not able to get the desired high yield that is required. So combining all of this, we as a ministry are aware that we need to do something. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, in his Renewed Hope agenda, has identified food security as a major plank of what needs to be addressed. And need I remind you that last year he declared a state of emergency, and we are working within that context because a number of actions have been taken as short-term measures, but we also have medium-term actions we are taking, including long-term programs. In all of this, what are we intending to achieve? What we are intending to achieve is to see that the prices of food comes down, because the food inflation is a serious issue Nigerians are dealing with, and we are aware of that. And you agree with me that as a result of the ongoing harvest, prices of many commodities has begun to come down. This is, yes, definitely. You see, the prices of commodities compared to 2 months ago, well, we are all Nigerians, aren't we? What was the price 3 months ago? What was the price of Irish potato, for example? No, you see, yes, I'm happy you are reacting. I'm happy you are reacting, and I love that. But listen, we need to understand one thing. Prices are determined by supply. This is simple economics. When you have more supply, definitely it impacts on prices. And what I'm saying does not in any way submit to the fact that we are where we want to see our food system. But I'm telling you the journey we are taking. And as far as I know, and I stand to be challenged, I'm speaking in public, I'm a public officer, I'm a Nigerian like every one of you here, I come from the community, I have my town, I have my people, I visit, I go. I'm not Abuja based because I go to my town. And the reality is simple. When harvest comes, prices begin to come down. But what I'm saying, and that's why I need you to listen to me, it's good you react, because all of us are facing this same challenge together. The market I go to is not different from the market you go to. Definitely. Okay. All right. I'm happy. So tell me which market you go to and which market I go to, and tell me the difference. So, you see, let's get this clear. What I'm saying is the fact that in the work we are doing as a ministry, we realize it is when you are having products in the market in constant supply, that is when the price can be impacted. Now, what we witnessed is because from 2002, for example, we had massive flooding that destroyed so many farms. There were a lot of things that impacted farmers. And so, when you have that deficit, it will take you time before you are able to cover that deficit. And like I said, we are not immune to what is happening in the global arena. Nigeria's food import bill is huge. And so when the global food supply chain is impacted, what do you expect Nigerians to happen? What do you expect to happen in Nigeria? We will also be impacted. But what are we doing as a country? That's what I'm here to speak about. I'm here to tell you that as a ministry, all of these things I have said are things we realize that are affecting the food inflation we are all witnessing. And I'm not here telling you that the prices currently in the market are the prices all of us will love. But are we going to fold our arms? No. As a government, do we have solutions we are working on? Yes. And I'm saying here that one of the things we realize is that before now, Nigeria was dependent only on rain-fed agriculture with some minimal areas of irrigation. But we are now being intentional as a government. We are now being intentional. We are now being direct by targeting the dry season so that we will be able to produce the major staples that Nigerians are depending on. And the major staples here, the first one that we have a heavy bill on is wheat. Because most of the confectionaries that we take, bread and all the like, all of them are products of wheat. Gala, all those things. The meat pies and all the things that we know as, in that category. And so as a country, we are doing something around that area. And I'll come back to that. But also rice. And at the same time, things like maize. In the case of maize, maize is a dual thing because it's also impacting negatively on the poultry industry. We're aware that a lot of Nigerians are in the poultry industry, and because of the high cost of feed, many people have had cause to abandon the little poultry farming they are doing. So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm not here to speak, grammar that appears as packaged lies. No, I'm being real because we all have to face reality. The president is very intentional about us facing reality, and as a ministry, we are dealing with that reality head on. Now, let me say this to you. Last year, for the first time, we had 128,000 hectares of wheat planted in the 11 wheat-producing states. That is the dry season. We also have people who planted rice within the dry season. But what are we doing this time around? We've learned whatever lessons we have in that dry season. The wet season is here. In terms of the support given to farmers within the wet season under the National Agricultural Growth Scheme, that has gone through the wet season, but we are also currently preparing for the dry season. And for the dry season, our target is 750,000 hectares of land. If you are in the wheat-producing states, most of the states, all the states in the northwest, all the states in the northeast, and then in the north-central, Niger, some part of Kwara, and also Plateau State. So if you are here, I'm listening to me, I'm saying this to you, you can go back and find out from your ministry, because we are working directly with the state ministries of agriculture and to identify the various farms, clusters who will participate in this scheme. That is the first. And you can also rely on your various farming associations. Now, the second one is that we're also dealing with rice. And our belief is that if you have production in the rainy season and you continue with production in the dry season, continue again in the rainy season, then you will sustain the supply of food across the food chain. And that will be able to provide stability. But when there is massive production, now you have supply, and then suddenly there is low supply. What do you expect? The prices will jump up again. So we are aware of this, and as a ministry, what I'm submitting to you is the fact that we are working to ensure that we do the needful as far as this is concerned. Now, this is also side by side with our strategic food reserve. But remember also, when this challenge came on board, we had to go into our strategic reserve to release into the various states. That has happened, where we provided nothing less than 125,000. I can't remember the exact figure, but I know it's more than 100,000 metric tons of both maize, sorghum, millet, including gari. Because in the strategic reserve, we also process gari as part of the strategic reserve we keep. So these are the things we are looking at. But most importantly, why are we where we are? Because as much as we want to solve the immediate problems that people are dealing with, we have to ask the critical question, why are we where we are? We are where we are because our system is not as productive as it should be. A situation where hoe and cutlass is the major tool, how do you expect farmers to be productive? So realizing this, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has charged us to work on mechanization programs, and 3 mechanization programs have been approved by the Federal Executive Council as follows: the Greener Hope Mechanization Program, the Belarus Tractor Mechanization Program, and the John Deere Mechanization Program. All of these programs have a combined total of 30,000 tractors, implements in terms of harrows, ridgers, planters, harvesters that are all in the mix. And we are hoping by the end of this year, the supply will have begun to come into the country. Our target is, by the time we are getting into 2025 rainy season, we should have significant amount of tractor and mechanization tools available. This does not mean that we are not aware of the challenges. Now, one thing in the past that has happened is that when you have tractors, you don't have tools in terms of the spare parts. At the same time, you don't even have enough skilled manpower that will also give you after-sales service. These programs are packaged with the following. We are going to have service centers across the 774 local governments. They are going to come with their spare parts, and young Nigerians will be trained in the use of these tractors and other implements, because all of them are designed to be precision-based, which means somebody has to be trained to know exactly how to use it. When there is any problem, you'll be interacting with a device that will tell you what is happening to your tractor. So all of this we are doing because we believe if you must attract the young Nigerians into farming, definitely not with hoe and cutlass. It has to be with mechanization tools, and that is already in the works. Now, the other one I would like to say is, how do you get the youth to participate? Knowledge has to be brought across board. One area you do that in agriculture is the extension delivery system. Right now, we have a very huge gap in terms of the extension farmer ratio. And the only way we can bridge that gap is by introducing electronic extension platform, which we are currently designing in the ministry to be made available online real time. That way, anywhere you are in the country and you have issues around your production, you can query and get answers immediately. Now, the other aspect is that not all Nigerians can speak English. A number of our farmers also in the villages, we want to have information in their local language. And this platform is going to have provision for translation of these vital informations in the major Nigerian languages to be made available online, real time. Now, the other aspect is that you can't do agriculture without supporting women. As far as gender inclusion is concerned, the ministry is taking this very seriously, and in all our programs, gender inclusion is part of the evaluation. And we believe we have to support the women to do what they know best, most importantly, in the area of processing. That is the only way you will tackle the post-harvest losses. We did the survey for this year's, what we call the annual performance wet season survey. This is normally conducted by the National Agricultural Extension Research Liaison Services. They've done that of this year. They presented the report to us, and we are happy with the progress we are making in terms of the direction. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying here we are where we want to be. No. But are we on a track? Yes, we are on a track, and we can see the destination in the horizon. Now, the other aspect is that I talked about the soil health. There's no way you can be productive if you plant on a soil that is not going to give you that productivity. And over time, we realize that Nigerians are just used to the broadcast method. You take fertilizer and just broadcast anyhow. The soil health card scheme is designed to tell Nigerian farmers, if you have 1 hectare, what is the health of that your 1 hectare? This scheme will tell you what the health of your 1 hectare is, what you are supposed to plant, the kind of mineral you are supposed to apply in terms of fertilizer, and the potential types of diseases that you may encounter and how you have to prepare for it. Now, we believe if we do this, we'll be supporting our Nigerian farmers so that per hectare, they will be able to get the required productivity in terms of when they plant, whether crop, in terms of whether rice, maize, cassava, or the like. Now, the other aspect is that this system is massively challenged. Rural areas will require that we support them with renewable energy. And as a ministry, we are also seizing this opportunity to raise the capacity of providing renewable energy in terms of solar, in terms of water to farmers, because all of this contributes to their productivity in terms of making sure that they have the right water to take. That way they don't fall sick, because if you have seen a Nigerian farmer in the village, when one member of the family is sick, the entire family is involved in trying to get him back to health. The implication is that the farm gets less attention. So we also are aware of all of this, and we are trying our best to see what we can do along that line. The other area I would like to talk about is this yield issue. We have a number of research institutes, and the research institutes are designed to provide high-yielding varieties of various crops. Now, with climate change, what do you need? You need short-duration crops. You need crops that are drought-tolerant. You need crops that are disease-resistant. And I think if you are able to take care of this, then you'll be helping farmers to achieve more. Now, let me tell you a snippet of what happened in the annual performance survey. This survey informed us that 65% of farmers reported that they are using improved seeds. And that is because we have restored back our national seed system, where the National Seed Council are working together with the Research Institute, the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, to identify the needs of farmers and then start the process of producing seed. Seed production goes from breeder seed, foundation stage 1, and then stage 2, which is the certified seed that farmers plant. Usually, it will take you 2-3 years if you are doing it right. So our research institutes have made available the breeder seeds, the foundation seeds are being planted, and we are also getting people involved in the planting of the foundation stage 2, which is the certified seed. Now, let me say this. In one of the works that was conducted between the National Seed Council and the Netherlands Foundation, they found out that 70% of our seeds are gotten from the informal sector. And because of that, the National Seed Council is looking at these community seed producers with a view to upgrading them, tooling them so that when they produce the seeds can meet certain basic standards, rather than allowing a situation where people will just have to go and get anything they call seed and plant. So all of these programs are being designed and implemented with a view to what? Addressing the various challenges that this sector is facing. Now, overall, I'm aware, and we're aware as a ministry, that whatever you do, what Nigerians will ask is, I'm hungry, I need food. And we get that. But is there anybody who can perform magic when it comes to providing food? Food production is a process. And I think the non-attention to some of the critical stages in this process is what got us into the mess we are finding ourselves. And what we are doing as a ministry is to identify those critical areas and address them so that on a longer, medium to longer term basis, we will be able to put in what we call a sustainable food system. That is what our ministry is trying to address. And that is what I have been trying to tell you as Minister of Agriculture, State. So for me, I'm happy to be here to share all of these perspectives. And of course, Sahel Consulting, which is an arm of the overall Sahel family, are working with us as a ministry to look at some of these challenges. One of the key areas, for example, is that Mr. President said, let's look at the idea behind commodity boards. And we said, we need insight into that. And we are working with Sahel Consulting to get insight into the kind of community board, if we have to have one, that we should have. Because when you bring knowledge into what you are doing, you gain better insight, and you are able to understand the structure and the dynamics in that system. And that is what we intend to do. So that overall, if we have to have commodity boards like some other countries are having, we will be having commodity boards that will serve the interests of the Nigerian farmers, not a select few. That is one of the things we are doing. Now, the other aspect also is the fact that, you know, irrigation, which I talked about, the dry season farming, is a function of irrigation. And we realize we need to be intentional, deliberate, and directed at providing a lot of infrastructure for irrigation. And the ministry is procuring a number of infrastructure in terms of pumps, but then we are also aware the cost of fueling irrigation pumps is becoming too exorbitant for Nigerian farmers. So what is the solution? Those that are solar-powered dependent. And I think we're looking at a number of them. Many suppliers have come around. But in all of it, we are not looking at a product that will be too cumbersome for the Nigerian farmer to use. We are rather looking at a product, like we say, the one you just on, it will start, you off, it will stop. What the farmer wants is to irrigate his field. And we are also looking through all of this. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking from my heart because everything I've said is what exactly we're doing as a ministry. And I believe in this because I've been in this sector, even before becoming a senator, I was 20 years in that sector, and I also understand the problems of the sector. And we are trying our best to bring the experience we've gathered to see how we can help President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to get our food system to serve the purpose of our country. His vision is a country where no man goes to bed hungry. It's achievable, and we are working on that. And we are going to get to that level where no one in Nigeria will go to bed hungry by the grace of God. Thank you very much. I shall submit. I know maybe question and answers. Is that what you want? Do I take my seat or I can stand for? Yes.
Few questions. All right, we can take a few questions.
All right.
So please, questions.
Yes.
Go up, okay?
Give me my paper.
should be up so they don't protest you.
No, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm not that old. I go to the field. No, don't worry. I'm okay. That's why we're here. So, okay.
Good afternoon,
Yes.
Honorable Minister of State and Agriculture. It's good having you talked about all the innovations and the various plans the Ministry of Agriculture is trying to implement. But one of the area I want to talk about is on the area, the time it takes between this planning and implementation. It's really, the gap is too much. Like you have all mentioned now, those things you've all mentioned, looking at the way government is run, sometimes you will find out that this administration will even end and there's no implementation. So I would like, if possible, talking about this innovative governance model, where we're looking at public-private partnership, if there's a way government can fast track. Because the last, event like this, I was here, the minister, Madugu, Madugu, yes, the minister of planning, spoke, budget and planning, yes. Magudu, yes.
Magudu.
Yes. He spoke about some of these things, but if you look at, if I ask my brother in the village or my relations that are into farming in the village, has this thing reached them? Are they aware?
All
That's
right.
one.
You know
Then
the way we're going to go about it? I'm coming.
Okay, sir.
You see, you talked about two things.
Yes.
The time between planning and implementation. Now, I've told you one thing. We are aware agriculture is seasonal. Okay? Because when you have the rainy season, you have the dry season. But remember, this is just a bifurcation just for purpose of convenience. For people who truly want to get it right, when you have your plans for rainy season, as harvest is finishing, you should begin to also prepare for the next cycle. This is where you need irrigation. And I will tell you, as a matter of fact, that as much as I don't know what happens in your village, but if you tell me where your village is and the kind of crops they produce, I can verify for you on the National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro Pocket platform if they are part of that scheme. But I want to tell you for sure that based on that platform, for example, which is one of the main flagship platforms that is driving our food production, we've done that of the rainy season. Okay, supports have been given to those who are on that platform. That of dry season is coming, and we are expanding. Because last time I told you our target was 120, and we're able to do 118. Now this time around, we are going 750. Because all states have seen the benefit of what we have done, and they are tagging in. So if you can tell us, honestly, I'll be more than willing to see, because that also will validate what we are doing, whether it is actually working or not.
Particularly Esako East. I'm from Edo State, particularly Esako East.
You can write it out for me.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, on my honor, I'm telling you, if you can bring it out, I can ask the coordinator, even before I leave this hall, to do that findings, and we can give you the results.
Okay, and then the area of insecurity. Thank you. Please, let me just drop this. Sir, please, the area of insecurity, just in a moment. The area of insecurity, like the UN country director mentioned, he says security is in food insecurity, and food insecurity is security. So what fast-tracked, what process or what are the government doing? Because the hardship in the land now, you said it before, most of the problem we can apportion it to insecurity. It's something that has to do with state of emergency. What's the plan? What's the government doing now?
All right, maybe let me just address that before I go to the next person. In terms of this, let me say this. I know as a matter of fact that when bad things happen and they are registered on the human brain, even when good things come to replace it, that bad ones never shift. As I'm standing before you, I represented Niger North between 2015 to 2023. Niger North has 8 local governments. 2 local governments were massively impacted that period. Mariga local government and Magama local government. And I had cause to stand on the floor of the Senate to report those incidents. And as I speak to you, those 2 local government farmers have gone back to their farms, and there is massive famine this year. If you want, you can verify. You see, I'm not a Nigerian who will come and stand before you and lie. I consider my integrity too precious to subject it to lying. I will never lie. You may say we are politicians. No, I'm not a politician who is caught out to lying. I'm just telling you the truth. If you want, if you have anybody in Mariga local government, call him and verify. If you have somebody from Magama local government, call him and verify. And I'm not saying that insecurity is completely gone. No. But I'm telling you that government is working. Niger State, we have local government that are impacted. Out of 20, you can say maybe 5. But those 5 also, if you go back now, you will see that there are changes, which means a lot of work is going on by our security forces. And we need to commend our security forces for the wonderful work they are doing and they are continuing to do. You see, many people sit in the comfort of their zone without even going to where these things are happening. So you won't know if there are changes. And if you want to challenge us, we can call you to visit some of these areas and verify for yourself. Ask them the question whether they were not having insecurity before and what is happening now. What that tells us is that government has done something to ameliorate the situation, and they are now back to their farms. So let's not think government is not working. The president is concerned about ensuring that all Nigerians are able to go back to their productive life. So I will want to say that in terms of the insecurity, government is doing its best, and a lot of resolution is taking place. A number of the areas, farmers and communities are returning back to their domain. That I can tell you, I know is happening. And I'm not saying it is over, so don't get me wrong, okay? But there is progress. So maybe let's take the next question.
All right, due to time constraint, please, we apologize. We cannot take everybody's questions one after the other. I can see that we have 4 rows in this hall. We've taken 1 person from this side. We'll take 1 person here, 1 person here, and then 1 person, and then 1 person from our online participants so they don't feel left out, please. So please, let's go. 1 person from this row, 1 person here, 1 person here, and 1 person from our online participants. So please, we are so sorry. We are so sorry about that.
If it's for me, don't worry about me. Please, I'm ready to take all the questions.
Okay, so we're done.
Because listen, the essence of engagement is that I'm getting feedback from Nigerians.
Exactly.
You cannot have innovation when you don't have a feedback loop.
That's true. Thank you, sir. So please, Miakno.
Yes.
And please kindly go straight to the point. Just two questions, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon, Honorable Minister. I'm just curious on the conservation efforts your ministry or the ministry is making regarding food security. So I don't know if anyone here is aware, but there are a lot of indigenous trees that are getting endangered or extinct. And I think it is the ministry's, mandate to preserve
indigenous
trees. And for example, the baobab tree currently is getting extinct or endangered in the north. And these actually affect our food security if we're not aware. So I just want to know what conservation efforts you're making
Thank
towards
you.
that.
Okay, should we take on the next question?
Yes, let's take the next question.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister of State. My name is Ms. Oge Folola Modi. I sit on the board of Sahel Consulting. I'm also the founder of a strategic communications advisory company. Thank you for your submissions on what the government has done so far. A lot of that we really haven't heard, and I think that some effort should be made to put that out a bit more in the public space. My question really is just bringing us back to why we're here. And one of the policy innovative models that we've looked at really is multi-sector collaboration. I would like to know what has the Ministry of Agri done in terms of collaborative action towards food insecurity. The last speaker submitted that we have an accessibility, affordability, and availability trilemma. So what have you done as the ministry, and which sectors have you worked with towards the pathway to food security in Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person, a man this time around, since you say gender, so it's 2 females, 2 males.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. I'm really encouraged with the confidence you've restored in some of us. My question generally is for the farmers. What can we do? I've had an experience some times ago. I was privileged to have cultivated some hectares of land and taking those crops to the market was not really favorable. But I noticed the activities of the intermediaries. What are we doing? What are the policies of the government to checkmate the threat posed by the intermediaries? We have people cultivating things, but we don't see these things in the market, and we heard of Federal Reserve banned, whatever. What are government doing to have those things in their possession so that it will be easier getting it down to the people? Because we see people farming it, we don't know where it is. We see them buying it cheap, but we ended up buying it very expensive. And those who farmed it, they are not really getting the value from what they have invested in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And like I said, one last question from our online participant, and I think it's going to be projected on the screen. But before we do that, Your Excellency, so please kindly go on.
All right. I should answer this once.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate you for asking the issues of endangered species. Now, let me say this very clearly. Every country is blessed with biodiversity. Nigeria's biodiversity is enormous. And I agree with you that the risk of extinction of some of our very, very fantastic natural biodiversity is real. You've mentioned baobab, and some people will even tell you even the locust bean tree is becoming endangered. Some people will even tell you the shea butter tree or the shea tree is also becoming endangered. There are many, many, many more. So what is supposed to be the response here is that you must have a biodiversity or germplasm conservation program. It is only when you have a germplasm conservation program that you'll be able to keep all of these things. So what we are doing here is to task our research institutes to begin the process of collecting our germplasm. And we are in the process of developing a program on national gene bank as a country, because we need a gene bank. That way, we'll be able to keep all of these things in our gene bank and prevent it from the extinction you talk about. That program we have on ground and we are working on. But you see, in a situation where Nigerians are crying on hunger, you will not be able to start bringing these ones, which are long-term programs, and projecting forward. What people want to see is the effort you are making for food to be on my table. And I think over the last 1 year, that is what has preoccupied us. But on the side, those who have this mandate are already doing that work. And we have the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria that is empowered to manage our agricultural research system that are handling this. At the same time, the ministry are also promoting under various value chain many of these commodities. But you see, when you have priority, you need to shift your priority from all of those areas to the area of massive need, which is the areas of our staples. I think that is the reality that we are dealing with. But we also have that in the horizon in terms of looking at our germplasm conservation programs, looking at the need to have a national gene bank so that that way we'll be able to guarantee the preservation of our precious germplasms. That is on that. Then the other aspect is from the board member of Sahel, thank you, Modi, the multi-stakeholder collaboration. I think that is one of the major keys to what we need to start doing as a ministry. And I think we've already started doing that. But what we have done is we did an assessment based on what we had on what we saw on ground. And if you recall last year, October, we did a press release or press conference where we told Nigerians what we plan to do. One of the things we plan to do is stakeholder analysis. Here again, Sahel Consulting are the ones we choose based on what we have seen them doing to work with us to do this stakeholder analysis. Because if you want to collaborate, you must know who you are collaborating with, on what you are collaborating with, and you need to also know what your collaborators are bringing to the table. If you do a massive or robust stakeholder analysis, it will tell you who is where, who is doing what, and that kind of a thing. So the ministry, we don't want to just start groping in the dark. All manners of people come around claiming to be this and claiming to be that. We need to verify and validate all of these things through a robust program. And that is why in our budget this year, we had that. And that is maybe perhaps the concern raised by the person saying maybe there are delays here and there. Yes, there may be delays here and there, but it doesn't mean that we are not working. And I'm sure Adegoro is aware, we've already had some engagement meeting, and we've really set out what the terms of reference and all the things we need to look at. What is the aim of that program? When we do a stakeholder analysis, we will know who are our stakeholders, those that have influence and those that have relevance. Because when you do a stakeholder analysis, those are the two key things you are interested in. Those that have influence may not have relevance. Those that have relevance may not have influence. You have some having both. All of these we want to know. And so when we know, then it will guide us, and all our officers, as they design their program, they will be guided by the output of the stakeholder analysis so that they will not miss out critical stakeholders who should be engaged. Remember, if you don't engage your stakeholders at the right time, they may not be there with you. They may just, out of respect, listen to you, but definitely they will not have your time. So we are all looking at this because we believe we cannot do all of these things alone. We need to create the right environment. Another program we're also looking at, and here I will be more than happy if people can volunteer to tell us what these things are. We have worked with the Office of the Vice President under the Presidential Food Safety, or is it Food Security Coordinating Unit. They work with AFAB to work out or to understand the pain point of Nigerian farmers. They've done that studies. and they provided that report. And I think I remember when we had the last meeting, I told you should get that document because it's a preliminary into looking at the pain points of Nigerian farmers across various layers in the value chain, starting from planting down to even post-harvest issues. Now, what we are trying to do here is all of this will help us to identify what are the indicators of the ease of doing agriculture in Nigeria. Because many people are suffering when it comes to agriculture, and we need to get to understand those pain points and work towards removing them. So for me, I'm happy that we've identified all of these things. Yes, I'm sorry I don't have any magic wand to wave because there is problem. And typical of any human being, you will want that problem solved right now and here. But I cannot guarantee you that. And I'm not here to guarantee that. But what I can guarantee you is that we are taking painstakingly, thoroughly, systematically, the issues that are bedeviling our Nigerian agriculture with a view to what? Taking them out of the way and creating a new direction that will allow innovation and all the things that Nigerian farmers can do to begin to do, because Nigerians are very resilient people and Nigerians are very, very productive people if you give them the opportunity and the space. And that is what we are trying to do in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Now, lastly on this note, every year we used to have what we call the World Food Day. And we come to places like these and we give grammar, blah, 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 talk. This year we said no. As part of what you call innovative governance models, well, governance models, operational models, whatever, so long as it is creative and innovative, aim at solving problems, I think is a better way to go. And what we've done this year is we said we're going to celebrate the World Food Day in the field. And henceforth, that is what we're going to continue to do. So this year, we were in Buhari Area Council, and I'm happy to note that some of the farmers we visited in the field are here. Maybe you can stand up to be recognized. They are here. No nation. No food on the table. All right. Now, these are part of a cluster in Buhari Area Council that our officers have been working with. And so this year we decided let's visit them, understand what they are doing, and to even confirm that truly they are genuine, they are real, they are on the ground. Because one other challenge that we are dealing with as a ministry is portfolio farmers, fake farmers, paper farmers, online farmers. Yes, they don't have farm, but they can come and submit glossy reports to you telling you we do this, we do this. In the process, some of them will say they took this picture in their village, but you see a Chinese man sitting in the picture. So, for us, one other area we are dealing with is the issue of all of these ghost farmers and everything associated with it. Because if we say we are going to give farmers support, and you are going to give them fertilizer, and you give to the person who is not having a farm, what do you expect him to do? And what will that add to the market? So, why not give to the person who is having the farm? That way his price is down, and when the product is out, he will be able to charge a minimal fee, not an exorbitant fee. I think that is one of the areas we are working with. And I want to assure you that we are having a program that is ongoing to develop a robust database system that will capture genuine farmers and their farms based on modern digital technology, where your farm will be geo-referenced and geo-fenced. That is what digital technology will do for you. We know how it is done. We have experts who can do it, and we are working very hard to make sure that that happens. Because I will be happier knowing that I have 100,000 farmers who have 1 hectare, and I'm dealing directly with them and giving them support because I know they are on their farms, than to come and have 1 million paper tigers, internet farmers. All I've given will be going down the drain. And then at the end of the harvest time, you come and say you have calculated. You are expecting output from 1 million hectares, and there is nothing to show for it. That is also one of the contributing factors to the very food inflation we are dealing with. And many Nigerians are aware of that because they have friends, relations, or acquaintances who are doing that, and they know. So no more road for them. As far as the ministry is concerned, if we know you are fake, please don't even come to us. Myself and my brother, distinguished Senator Abubakar Kyari, are all upbeat on this issue. And we are working with the National Bureau of Statistics to identify how we are going to reach out to our farmers. In the last national census they did, agricultural census survey they did for us, they were able to tell us that Nigeria has 42 million households that are involved in one form of agriculture or the other. That data is very important, it's very verifiable, and in fact, in verifying it, all of us had cause to see the clustering of where we come from online, from that work. So that is the way to go, and I want to assure you all that we are doing all we can to bring in digital technology into the fray to help us address the issues around our agriculture. Because with digital technology, there are quite a number of things you can do. Disease identification will become much easier. All these issues around the soil health that I talked about will become much easier, and farmers will be given the right advice. They will plant the right crop at the right time, and that way they will get the best yield they are supposed to get. Let me close by giving you a snippet of what the annual performance survey says. We had marginal increase in production of major staples, except millet. Marginal in the sense that some are just 2%, some are 1-point-something%. But what does this mean in terms of significance? If we are having some of our farmlands sequestered away from farming because of insecurity, some places flooded, and yet we are having increase, it means there must have been a compensation by the number of people who have gone into farming. And I think we saw also that a number of people have embraced farming, and that is why we are getting that kind of little marginal. And we intend to support and deepen that so that we can begin to get the number of people going into farming increasing. Our total farm arable land is about 73 million, and right now what we have as statistics is not more than 41, 42 million being farmed. So we still have more farmlands. And I think if the right things are done, if the right incentives are given, farming is definitely the way to go. I think for the wheat farming, it was an eye-opener. Farmers were making 2 million, 3 million gains per hectare. Within 4 months, November, December, January, February, by March, April, they are already harvesting. So if you are interested, look at one of those, what did they call it, wheat-producing states. And I would recommend places like Jigawa for you because they have massive land and irrigation is possible. So I believe we can do it. We are not yet there, but I'm here standing to assure you that the president said renewed hope agenda. Renewed hope means you should do those things that will begin to give assurance to Nigerians that something is coming. Like that mother who her children came from their gallivanting and said, "Mommy, I'm hungry." And the woman said, "I'm in the kitchen." And they could see different things happening as part of the process of putting that food together. I'm sure that hope that Mama is going to cook is going to calm them down. I want to assure you that is what we're doing in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. And in no time, I want to assure you, in no time, we'll begin to see the result of what we are doing out there on your table by the special grace of God. Thank you for having me, and God bless Nigeria.
Once again, can we give our strong and agile Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security in Nigeria a beautiful round of applause, Dr. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, CON. And on that note, please let's have the Changemakers partners on stage with the Honorable Minister for a group photograph, please. Please kindly join us on stage for a group photograph. We're all praying for the day that no man in Nigeria will go to bed hungry ever again. Amen to that. Thank you. That's our prayer. We're praying that Mama will always have something to cook for us.
Sorry, Douglas?
How about that man? That white man. That man, the first row. That man in white.
I can't remember his name.
Can you just call my name? I think it's his friend, I think.
There's a lot more people in the room than I thought we would have at this stage. Okay, before you can wait, why is the minister?
And on that note, we sincerely apologize for those of us that still have more questions. Please kindly forgive us, okay? Thank you for understanding. And yes, we're moving on and we're progressing. Thank you once again, Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you. All right, so I think we're progressing. Let me quickly call on founder, Eden Acres Integrated Organic Farm, in person of Ozioma Ukegbu Onwadi. Yes, for a presentation on AFC Entrepreneur Showcase. Please, our very distinguished guests, let's put our hands together for Ozioma as she comes on stage for her presentation. Where's Ozioma? Please, can we appreciate her one more time? Thank you.
Where's my cue to start? My slides, I have. It's my absolute honor to stand before you today to introduce myself. My name is Ozioma Ukegbu Onwadi of Eden Whole Foods. And today I'm going to be sharing with you the journey of Eden Whole Foods and how AFC, the Africa Food Changemakers, has contributed to our growth and scale. Thank you very much. So Eden Whole Foods as a concept began in my kitchen in 2014 with the birth of my first daughter, Mesoma. And when I gave birth to her, as a very busy banker, I relied on imported food products because, I mean, that was what was available. I didn't have access to natural food products, at least the ones that my mom and my grandmother fed us with when I was little. And each time I walked into the supermarket and I bought the food products, it saddened me and it deepened my desire to ensure that she was enjoying the food products that I had grown up with. And not until 2017 that I actually kickstarted my agric journey. And when I started it, it was a side hustle. I call that expanded portfolio now because it's important that you expand your portfolio. But it was a side hustle, and I was doing it in little bits. I didn't move on until 2020, and I quit my day job and started eating whole foods full time. It's the riskiest risk that I've taken. It was very courageous of me. And everybody was like, oh, are you nuts? You want to leave the banking career you're building to start food processing? But I was already going crazy with agriculture. Sometimes my husband would say, in your sleep, you're saying lettuce, cassava. What's going on? And that was my story. In 2020 also, I mean, it opened my eyes to the huge potential of food in Nigeria. Food was one of the essential things that people had to enjoy. Like, we were compared with the medical system, pharmaceutical, and the hospital. So if you didn't have food during COVID, I mean, you knew how it was. So we were doing not just our food products, we were helping people shop essential things as little as water and tissue paper, because it was a very big need. We're feeding almost the whole of Lagos. I mean, we'll go to the farm same day, take food products and our partners, package them and distribute, and they will start processing in 2020. So I'll take you to what Eden Whole Foods does. Eden Whole Foods is an African superfood company, and we process and package food products. We process and package food products for Nigerians and Nigerians in diaspora. For Nigerians in diaspora, we have FDA license, we have the NAFDAC license as well, and the NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, is currently processing our HCCP, which will help us to access larger markets. This is some of my team. Like, you can say that I'm the youngest, maybe. I have other young people in my team, so we're a very dynamic young team. And when they say youths don't do agriculture, this is your proof to show them that youths do agric. Now, the impact of AFC, I didn't join AFC up until 2022. And I started with the Youth in Agric Development Program. That was like an eye-opener for me. Prior to the time, I'd just done 2 years in agric. I didn't really know my left from my right. I had gone from growing food products, and when it wasn't just paying off because I was incurring a lot of expense and losses, I looked and saw that food production and adding value was very key. But I didn't really know what to do. So when the call for Youth in Agric Development Program came up, YAEDP, I applied and I got in. And that was the first eye-opening for me to see that, African food has a huge potential. However, the packaging was as important as the content. So we don't play with any of these two things. And we got a lot of training. I had my mentor, Mr. Oyefeso. The slide before, you see what our products used to look like. And then he basically just handheld me. We did field trips, we did in-person training, we did online training. And it was just a whole huge process, telling us, see, you can package African food this way, you can tell your story, and you can actually attract the right audience. So that training was very instrumental in the way that we have defined and skilled Eden Whole Foods. We did field trips to the biggest cocoa exporter in Nigeria, Starlink, Global, and Ideal. And then this is how it became after we had finished our processing. At the moment, we do a wide range of products, flours, like sweet potatoes. So when it's in season, I mean, we are doing so much, like drying them into chips with our dehydrator, and then we're doing bananas as well, and plantains, so that, I mean, it's not just healthy, it's also nutritious, and we're adding value to the farmers that we work with. We do our local palm oil, we do natural seasoning, and then we work with some farmers who do our oils for us. With the AFC, I didn't just stop at YAED, so I'm an AFC baby. I went to do the Scaling Export program, and it just showed that Africa has a huge potential if we're able to trade within ourselves. And I've been able to showcase in Rwanda at the Africa Food Systems Forum and the International Trade Fair in Nairobi, Kenya. The crowning of my AFC journey is being selected as a leading African woman in food. So here is a leading African woman in food. And because a lot of us, thank you very much. It was a dream come true for me because it was very competitive. It came with referrals, and then we had to interview and all of that. But it connected me with so many other African sisters who are doing absolutely amazing. The ecosystem enablers, the chefs, and just so many other people in food space, food and beverage. And it's helped me scale because it's connected me with sisters who I trust, who I've done 6 months with, who I've spent time together with, and we've bonded, we've networked, and we've collaborated. Currently, we have some of our products in Kenya, and my last sister, Christine, is the go-to person. So one of the challenges of export or trade is having a partner who is present in the country where the buyer is. They always want to see somebody who they can hold or who they trust. So Christine stands in for us in Kenya. We have other partners in Nigeria, the chefs who promote our products in their kitchens and on their platforms, showcasing that African food is the best experience ever. I mean, it's rich, it's nutritious, it doesn't have preservatives, and it's very nourishing. And because, I mean, Africa, I always say Africa will feed the world. Because this claim is not just a claim, it's the truth. It means that more young people need to be in this system, there needs to be more collaboration, there needs to be more networking, and that's what the AFC has provided. And being a leading African woman in food, I can tell you that this is viable if we get the right support, if we get the right trainings. I've been able to grow year on year. In 2021, I wasn't doing much. In 2022, I mean, I started growing and I started getting market traction. In 2023, we had done 100% of our revenue, and this is our revenue in 2024. It can be more. So please, we are calling for sponsorships and funding to work with more farmers and add value to products, to get more equipment, and to basically just reach every single person in this room and beyond who desire that African food can be celebrated in kitchens across the globe. Our partnership with AFC is a continuing journey for me. AFC is an NGO. Sometimes I actually forget it's an NGO because they do amazing, amazing things. And if the partners are in this room, please do more so that women like me can stand on this kind of platform and tell you that we are growing, we're doing amazing things, and we're employers of labor, and that we're scaling and just redefining what the agri-food space is like. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. Please, once again, let's put our hands together for Ozioma Ukegbu-Onwodi, founder, Eden Acres Integrated Organic Farm. Beautiful. I think we're progressing, and at this juncture, we're moving into the innovation panel session. We'll be looking at ideas of governance, initiatives that empower local communities, enhance participation, and promote sustainable development in agriculture and food systems. And to moderate this panel session, please, our very distinguished guests, let's put our hands together as I call on stage the moderator, Vivian Madueke, Managing Partner, Food Health Systems Advisory. There she is. Please put our hands together for her. Please, then going to call on the panelists. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Are we tired? Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. The theme for today's day is innovation, and that is the purpose of the panel we're going to have at the moment. I would like to call our extinguished panelists, starting with Dr. Kwao Andam. He's the country director of the International Food Policy Research Institute. Please join us. I'd also like to invite Ms. Tosin Ojo, who is a partner at Sahel Capital. And also I'd like to invite Dr. Lekong Tobe, who is the country director of Heifer International. Please give them an encouraging round of applause. I know we are exhausted, but it's just about to start. Now we're delving into the innovations, right? We've heard a lot of very convincing speeches, a lot of challenges highlighted, solutions highlighted as well. And for us, this session is where we can have honest conversations about what the challenges are, and most importantly, what solutions are available, right? We've seen numerous interventions have come across throughout the years, but we're still in the same food and nutrition insecurity issues. And so our panelists would kindly share with us practical, actionable solutions. With that, I would like to pose my first question, and can I encourage all of us to please take notes? In this session, we would love to take questions from you to the panelists so that we can have an engaging dialogue rather than just us presenting to you. So for the first question, is it okay if I sit? Are we fine with that? All right. Hello? All right, fantastic. So the first question I have is around policy, right? Dr. Kwao, as we all saw today, policy is quite important, and Nigeria is not lacking policies. One of the things I want to encourage our panelists to do is to focus this on action, practicality. So my question is, in your view, what are the 3 top governance issues that prevent us from having policies that work? And if you can also build in, what do we need to do differently in practical terms, not high level? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivian, and very good to be on this panel. Appreciate the organizers, Sahel, for inviting me, and thank you all for being in the room. I'm going to mention only 2 of these issues instead of 3, Vivian, and permit me to do that just to save time, but also because I can only think of 2, actually, so that works out very well for all of us. So 2 things that practically I can think of. We all heard from the Minister of State a few minutes ago that there is a vision that the president has for no one to go to bed hungry, right? I hope we all heard that. I was glad when I heard that, because the first thing I had on my list in response to this question was the need for a clearly articulated, shared, communicated vision of where we want to go with food systems. Now, what we just heard a few minutes ago from the Minister of State, if that is the vision, it really needs to be communicated much more than it has been in the past, and it needs to be a shared vision which everyone, every Nigerian citizen has of where we want to go. There's a portion of a book that I love, Alice in Wonderland, where Alice asks a cat that, "Can you show me the way to go, sir?" And the cat responds, "Well, where do you want to go?" And Alice says, "Actually, I don't know where I want to go," because she's lost, if you have read that book. And the cat says, "Well, if you don't know where you want to go, then it really does not matter which way you take." It's the same with policy. We have to know where we want to go in order to know which policies to take. And then the second one I'll mention very briefly, because I think we all know about it. It is to ensure that we actually implement the governance model, a model of decentralization, which is what Nigeria is supposed to be. And the reason why I mention that is that those who are closest to the outcomes, right, the state and local leaders should be the ones who are empowered to make the decisions, including budgets. So there is in 2024, there is no reason to continue with a model where the budgets, the decisions on budgets for what is spent in Kebbi, what is spent in Benue are taken in Abuja. Those decisions should be taken by those who are closest to the ground. So 2 things, a clearly articulated and shared vision of where we want to go with food systems, and secondly, implementing decentralization in a meaningful manner. I hope those are practical enough. Thank you, Vivian.
So does that, I heard 2 things, like you mentioned, having a clear vision of where we want to go. And I want to assume a vision of no one going hungry. Is that a smart vision? Is that, in your view, is that smart enough? And then the second bit, I was even having a conversation with someone today who said, the federalized system of government where the federal, they determine the budget. By the time it trickles to the local government, the money is finished. The money is finished, right? So in your view, what are the practical, I wish the minister was here, to hear us out. What do you think are the practical things that can be, what do we need to do differently?
Thank you, Vivian. Well, I mean, to be honest, it really doesn't matter much what is my view or what is the minister's view. Let me tell you whose view matters. The farmers in the room, right? You heard them earlier. If they believe that this is a good vision for Nigeria, then it will come to pass. And the reason why I say that is this. For me, for example, as an economist, as a researcher, I can do my work. I can do the research and publish. I can communicate that research. The minister can think about the policies. But at the end of the day, who is going to produce the food? Who is going to package the food? We just heard from Eden Foods, a really nice presentation, I think. Those people are the ones who are working on the ground in the food system. If they believe in that vision, then it will work. So in that, I think a vision of no one going to bed hungry is a good enough vision if it is shared by those who will actually do the work. And I hope that they share that vision.
Okay, great. Thanks. The farmers of the room, at some point, I would want to hear from you. Is the vision smart enough at some point? Because for me, that is why I'm trying to get us to look at actions. And I agree with you, is a shared vision. But, there's also room for leadership, encouraging leadership. And, these are real conversations. And I really do wish we can communicate this to our leaders. But thank you very much for your insights. Tosin, you work with Sahel Capital, the money people. You have a lot of experiences in funding agriculture. I'm curious to know, what is the biggest misconception around innovative finance in food and ag?
Yes, I'm from Sahel Capital. We're a sister company to Sahel Consulting, and we're a private investment firm. We have two funds. I've raised $90 million over the last 10 years, and we can support companies in 13 sub-Saharan African countries. We've learned a very hard lesson from our first fund, very painful lesson. We did a lot of good work and had a lot of impact. But as we all know here, FX has been devalued perhaps maybe 10 times, roughly, in the last 10 years. And let me put that in perspective. You will break even, your portfolio will break even in dollars if you have generated 10x money in local currency in the same period. That means you would just be able to return the exact amount of dollars given to you 10 years ago. So for you to be able to return the exact amount of dollars given to you 10 years ago, the companies must have performed 10 times for you to return the exact same amount of money. And I'm explaining it in this layman way so that we understand the challenges that we're facing. Your question is, what's the biggest misconception? I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I have seen around innovative financing is that we do not think enough from upsetting the system. So we think we can do innovative financing and at the same time try to keep the basic principle of economics in these markets and in many developing markets. And I'll say what I mean. Right now, interest rates are 35%. Interest rates are that high because the monetary policy authorities, the central bank, have to jack up rates because they were dealing with very high inflation. They were dealing with unstable currency. And if you understand basic economics, it's very difficult for you to keep interest rate low, keep exchange rate stable, and keep inflation low. We call it the trilemma in economics. You can't achieve the three. So you can only do two at a time, but that's monetary policy. So they use monetary policy to jack up rates through a number of things. So it's led commercial rates to be to 35%. But the reality is for the real sector, how many businesses would thrive with 35%? So we said this thing in finance where we say, oh, we should not subsidize the market. And I'm saying this as a finance person. So I'm saying this as what needs to be said, because we are here to say what needs to be said. Absolutely. And so we say, okay, we can't subsidize the market. It's a principle that is true in theory, but every nation needs to determine what is priority for them and what they need to achieve. If you study the history of Southeast Asia, many of these countries, South Korea, Japan, maybe China and all of those countries. There were deliberate things they did that were not in line with conventional economics when they were trying to catalyze specific sectors, right? Agriculture is one sector that is very strategic. We've said it's important for political security. We've said it's important for stability. In many countries in the world, agriculture is not financed with plain vanilla banking and solutions. You have Bank of Agriculture, you have different ways in which agriculture is financed. So we need to start thinking about those things. We need to decouple. We need to delink the financing of this sector with how we think about it from like commercial pricing, because it cannot work. We can't continue to, like, you can't take, if you're a processor, you take money at 40%, and then if you take the money at 40%, and then you see how that cascades, you're not going to make any profit. The financials will not be stable. If it's not stable, the company is not stable, and it just cascades. So that's the first thing. So when you ask about the misconception, if we want to do innovative financing, we truly have to make it innovative. We cannot try to like anchor on what traditional economics or traditional finance tells us to do, and we say at the same time we're trying to like have real great impacts. No, we can't. And as a nation, we need to determine what's important to us. If you think food security is important, then we need to take a decision that on this, we are going to do this. And it does not matter. Every economic theory is someone's theory. So we can figure out what can work for us, right? As long as the unorthodox pathway that we are taking does not, disrupt basic market principles. So that's one thing. The second thing is we need to galvanize local currency funding. So one of the other misconceptions also is that, we can continue to fund in dollars or dollarize in dollars, and then, it doesn't matter. It does matter, because investors want return. In fact, every time we talk about sustainability and impact, the first thing that needs to be sustainable is the financial return. Because if there's no profit, then every other impact that you have generated cannot be sustained. Because if the company packs up, it does not matter how many people you have employed, they'll be out of jobs. So we need to start talking about, and if we continue to give funding in USD, there's no way people can be able to cope just because of some of the things that I've mentioned. So we need to start to think outside of the bracket. What do we need? And I can speak to those things later. What are the real innovative ideas that we need to bring to the table if we really believe that this is a problem that we need to tackle and we need to solve?
Thanks, Tosin, for some of you. Thank you. You've spoken excellently. And I'll try to recap what I heard. The first thing is, if there is a need, we might need to subsidize the markets. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Agriculture is subsidized everywhere.
And this is for ears for both the government, but also the development partners in the room, right? Because, as much as we know the government is independent, they listen to advice from development partners. And I want us to leave this room with actions, with things that work. The second thing I'm also hearing is, for those who don't know, dollar last year was 465. This year is 1,000, if I'm correct, 1,680? 1,007, okay. That's how much devaluation. That's a significant amount. And what we're hearing Tosin say is that if we continue to give funding, loans, or any form of fund in USD, that would be an issue. So we need to think Naira. Now, Tosin, I want to give you a chance. I know we're trying to be efficient with time. To just tell us, so with all these challenges you've highlighted, what are the innovative financing mechanisms that can, from a governance perspective or from a practical perspective, get to both SMEs or large organizations within food? Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the first thing I spoke about is about subsidizing the market, and I want to explain how it can work, because like I said, if you don't do it well, you can distort the market. And I'll explain how it's been done before, and it was counterproductive. The Anchor Borrower Scheme, CACs, and some of the programs under the CBN were attempts to give cheap funding to the agriculture sector, but it did not work. But it did not work. We all know the reasons why it did not work, right? Like, is embedded in government, and there's just a lot of government inefficiencies and a lot of corruption that, were in there. And people took the money basically like, it's my share of national cake, and that's it. Now, if you want it to work, first, we need government to just be ecosystem enabler. We need to bring the financiers, and then we need to bring private sector institutions, and then we need to structure the funding, the appropriate funding in first long-term, low cost, right? Blended capital instruments that we can put together between the funders and the intermediaries, or in some cases even maybe directly to the companies, depending on their size. But intermediaries most times are needed because the sizes of these companies in these markets are too small. So you need like investment vehicles who can help channel them. So we need that. And we need to be very clear that we're delinking and decoupling that mechanism from how the traditional monetary policy and interest rate works. We need to be very clear that we're doing that and we can do that. And it needs to be tied to impact outcomes and impact-based. If you say we want to tackle food security, then what we should be tracking is what is the volume of rice or volume of maize that we have produced in the next 6 months and in the next 4 months. And if you collect this money, we want to see that volume. And if you're not meeting your volume output, whether we fund a processor and you take maize from farmers or you take rice from farmers, if you're not meeting those process outputs that we want to see, you do not have access to the funding because the funding is concessionary because we want it to reach certain impact outcomes. So we need to start tying things like that to impact outcome based and delink it from the traditional monetary system. And so we've done it before, but we did it in the wrong way, so it did not work. It can work because in the EU, agriculture is subsidized. In the US, it's subsidized. In many countries in the world, it's subsidized because food is a security issue. So it can work. So that's one practical solution. The second practical solution is we then need, so this first practical solution is on the structuring of the supply side of the funding so that companies can access the money on the demand side because it's still not free money. It might be concessionary money, but you still need to pay it back. We need, one of the biggest problems when you're funding, especially when you're funding SMEs, they can't take equity. Most times it has to be like loan instruments. When you want to give loan instruments, you need security, you need collateral. There's a problem with collateral. So we need to have wholesale risk guarantees. Development finance institutions, this is some of the things they should be doing. They should not be competing with intermediaries for deals in the market. They should be providing wholesale guarantees that help the intermediaries to lend to the SMEs. So you give this wholesale guarantee. Let me give an example. There's a 10 billion naira local currency fund to SMEs. You give wholesale guarantee, risk guarantee on that 10 billion naira to say any loan that you write, I'll provide a guarantee. The cost of the guarantee can be 1% or whatever it is. I'll provide some kind of guarantee. So you can write that loan without necessarily saying bring collateral, bring this, bring that, and all of that. This is also important for so many other more complicated or complex reasons, which I won't go into. But these are two practical things that can be done.
Yes, fantastic. I'm sure some of the SMEs in the room are happy to hear, is it possible to get a loan without collateral at an interest rate that makes sense, that is not 35%? So I'm hearing you say a couple of things. First, the fact that some of these fundings sit within the government and some people think is a national cake is a challenge in itself.
It is.
How can we structure it around public-private partnership where the government plays a facilitation role rather than an ownership disbursement role? Is that what I'm hearing?
100%.
Another thing I'm hearing is tie impact to outcome and disbursement. That's something we can do differently. And then the third thing I heard is wholesale risk guarantee. For the non-financiers in the room, it means somebody will take the risk on your behalf and so that you don't have to give collateral. Is that, in a nutshell, a layman's language?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Tosin. So I'm coming to you, Dr. Leke Tobe. I want you to talk about public-private partnership. Tosin has already flagged we need public-private partnership, and that is an innovation in itself. It's not the first time it's happening. We have so many PPPs in existence. Which public-private partnerships have you seen as most effective when it comes to food systems? And if you can also add, what are some of the elements that made those public-private partnerships successful?
Okay. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. And first, I want to thank Sahel for a wonderful event that this has been, and for staying consistent over the years, 3 years going now. And to answer your question, there are different types of PPP that exist. And the one that is particularly of interest is the value chain development. Of course, we know that the type that you choose is dependent on context and the goal or objectives that the partners want to achieve. So there's the one that is focused on value chain development. And you may actually also focus on market infrastructure or infrastructure development or the type that is focused on research, development, innovation, and technology, and including technology dissemination and transfer, or the one that is targeted at technical assistance and business development that are targeted to SMEs and smallholder farmers. At HEFA, where I work, our focus, or the one that we have been using, has been centered around the one that focus on removing the barriers or constraints in the value chain, because we're in the agricultural system. And that's worked for us. And in that, we have the government in real terms providing the enabling environment and having their skin in the game. We have the private sector, and we who are facilitating and coordinating also, making the partnership work. And of course, ensuring that there's inclusivity. That is, that the smallholder farmer is actually participating through the agency that we're able to create for the smallholder farmer. Now, going beyond all of this, the one major example of a project that we have that is aligned with this type of public-private partnership is the one that we have, a poultry project that we are implementing with partners in Edo State, where we have Amo Farm, the government of Edo State, us, and several other actors in the value chain playing different roles. That's been very successful. In that, what we did was to facilitate the expansion of the investment of Amo operation into that state through the building of a 10,000 chicken per day poultry processing plant. And what the government does is to ensure that these private sector have all that they need for their business to thrive. And what that means is that they made the road that leads to that factory. They're connecting the factory to their own independent power plant so that this factory can have constant power supply. And they're also providing technical assistance to the farmers alongside us, who are the implementing NGOs in the space. Now, what we are doing is to ensure that everything, all the values that are created are inclusive of farmers also, and all other SMEs that are playing part in that, such that everybody has a value. And what we do beyond just facilitating the process and coordinating is that we provide catalytic fund to this project, especially to the private sector, to attract them into that market, because the problem that we were trying to solve, and we're still solving, is access to market for poultry farmers. They lack access, so to address that is to bring an off-taker into the market, and that off-taker has to have a processing plant in that space. And that is also stimulating the growth of the value chain. Other actors are coming on board, and that's something that we have seen as a successful model of public-private partnership in that state. But of course, we have other variants that we're using where the government does not necessarily have skin in the game, but they are providing enabling environment.
Great. So what I hear you say is the government, the example you shared, what was the secret sauce? Was the government creating an enabling environment?
Yeah.
And also providing infrastructure. I heard you talk about road, providing power.
Yeah.
I would want you to pivot slightly and tell us, in your view, what's the role of international donors and development partners in facilitating these public-private partnerships? Because here we want to talk about innovative governance models, right?
Yes.
And there is the government, public, private, but there's also the third sector. So what is the role of,
now,
in a couple
thank
of
you,
seconds?
Vivian. In practical terms, if I am going to leverage the experience that we have, our role as an INGO is to not just facilitate, but coordinate also, and ensure that the farmer is included. That is inclusiveness of the farmer in all of that as a service to the farmer, because that's why we are created in the first place, to provide service in support of the smallholder farmer, that they may achieve sustainable living income, and have a thriving and improved livelihood, as the case may be. So, but for that to happen, we have to go first to the market, who often don't find the smallholder farmer attractive to transact with. So, to ensure that the businesses are attracted into the space where the farmer has his operation or have their operation, we have to provide the stimulus, which is the catalytic front, as an incentive for the private sector to come into that space. But beyond that also, we provide technical assistance and business development support to not just the smallholder farmer, but also to the private sector partner in that mix. For example, to Amu Farm, where that's the example that I gave earlier on. But also advisory to the government in bringing their full energy to the table, so that, because one thing that we learned was that it was difficult for the private sector farmer, the private sector business, to actually trust the word of the government. So we are also the bridge between that, to ensure that they come to the table. And what we are saying is that whether we're there now or not, they're able to speak to themselves, and look at what is going on and who can solve that problem between themselves without having to leverage our facilitation in the space. So that's what we bring to the table. Yeah.
You've raised several points, and I thought it's important to reiterate that for the development partners in the room. And I do believe we know some of these things. Some of them are reminders. The first one is development partners will serve as a trust bridge between private and public. Also providing technical assistance and business development, catalytic funding, market development, and then coordinating the inclusivity. That's what I heard you say. Now, you've heard 3 speakers, and because of time, I'm respectful of our time. We have so much more we need to talk about, but we have Dr. Kwao, who has talked about policy. We have our dear financier, Tosin, who has talked about money, financial structures. We've also heard Dr. Lekon, who has talked about public-private partnership. Now I want you to talk to us. If you have any questions for them, anything you would want to learn a little bit more about, we have time for 1 or 2 questions. Do we have any questions? Please. I know we have a few more minutes. Can we get a mic to her, please?
Very much. My name is Ezegayas Ebube, and I'm representing Ukera Ebere Esudegunam. My question is directed to Ms. Tosin. She spoke very broadly. In fact, I enjoyed everything she spoke about. I learned a lot, but I don't think what our previous minister said is realistic. You see, there are no steps to cushion the effects of all this on the citizens. And because there are no intentional steps to cushion these effects, there will constantly be demands, and that will increase the inflation. And even if it eventually works, when the farmers sell to the wholesalers who eventually sell to the retailers, you find out that most of them get greedy. You can't tell if a retailer that has been selling a bag of rice for 95,000 naira to suddenly start selling it for 40,000 naira. Now, how do the consumers know that, okay, this thing is not supposed to be sold like this? So my question is this. Is there a way where you can the private sector can probably advise the government to bring about price regulation? Because I feel like price regulation would go a long way You know, we have a lot of markets in Abuja. We can start with the market here in Abuja, expand, you know. You're selling foodstuff. This is what we are buying. This is what you should sell. At least there should be a budget for it. I think moving forward, that would also affect your interests and all of that. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a fantastic contribution. And we're here to discuss innovation. So either you, Dr. Kwao or Tosin, any one of you can take the question. Can we truly regulate the prices of things in the market? Is that an innovation to consider? Remember, innovation isn't always about tech. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, please.
My name is Ismail Oke Adetoyi. I come from Kasana for this conference. Talking about innovative approaches to things, I was in Oshogbo and I saw one financing that really interests me. There is a company that finances commercial motorcycles. And the way they do it, normal financial model, they will ask you to bring collateral. But these people, they don't deal with any collateral. They oversimplified it. Just show interest, bring someone, maybe a small trader, to stand as guarantor for you that he or she knows you. They will give you the machine. And it really works. I saw hundreds of it. So maybe this is something that maybe if the model can be studied and maybe adapted into agribusiness also, it will really assist a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the spirit of collateral, I'll be interested in knowing the interest rate of such kind of lending. Do you have those numbers? At what interest? It will probably be 36, 50% flat to get you that. Anyway, let me leave the experts. It was simplified. Fantastic. So the simplicity, remember I said innovation is about simplicity, it's not always about tech. Let me allow our panel to respond to those questions. We have two questions here. The first one is the possibility of price regulation. As economists, what's the implication of that? Is that a potential? And secondly, how do we oversimplify funding? I'll use an example. I love OPay, even though I don't have an OPay account. How many people have OPay account here? I love the way they've simplified banking. So what's the potential for lending for that? Go ahead.
Should I take the one on price regulation?
Please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the short answer is no. This would not be a potential policy that you pursued. And the reason why we should not do that is this. The price is really a signal. It's a way of communication that enables the person who's consuming, those of us who are buying, to signify what we would like to place a value on, or how much value we would like to place on what is being bought. And it's also a signal that goes back to the producer. For example, the farmer who is producing or the processor who is producing that food. Now, what you want to do is that you want the markets to work. You want the consumers to be able to signal back to the producers about using the prices, about what to produce, and the level at which they should produce. If you turn to price regulation, then we are turning the setting of the prices over to the government or to officials who would not have all of the information that we have, how much we have in our pockets, how much we value that product, how much we value other things that we have to buy. So as much as attractive as sometimes the sound of price regulation sounds, because it tells us that maybe we can set a limit on the prices, it's not actually the suitable mechanism for limiting food price inflation. I think that's what's behind your question. Rather, what we should be looking at is policies that can bring about a more productive food system, because that's what would bring down the prices of food. Thank you.
Tosin, you want to add to that?
It's just something small to add. So from a practical point of view, Nigeria is a big country. I don't think many of us even understand the scale of this country. There are 774 local governments, 200 million people. Maybe you do a little thing in one local government in Abuja, how are you going to cover the country? So if the cost of regulation itself is a cost. All those people that will be going out to monitor prices, they'll be on salaries, that's the cost of regulation, apart from the fact that it will never work. It has never worked, and it's not going to work. And the reason it won't work is very simple. Price is an output. Like he said, it's telling you what's happening between demand and supply. There will be people in between that will take advantage, but fundamentally it's because you have a supply problem. And so what you should go and fix is, how do you fix the supply problem? And that's what we're talking about. We should provide concessionary funding so that people can offtake more from farmers. If you can offtake more from farmers, then farmers have more income to produce more, right? These are things that we can fix with financial instruments. There are other things that we can fix with financial instruments, like security. If a farmer does not feel safe to stay on the farm, it does not matter what you try to do, they are not going to do. But until we fix those things, we can like regulate prices. In the long run, it's more destructive than whatever we think we might achieve in the short run.
Economics 101. Okay, thank you. Can you please respond to the second question?
Okay, so the question on simplifying lending, yes.
In 30 seconds.
And it's something we've already started doing at Sahel with our SEFA fund. We're probably, I don't want to boast, but I'm not sure, we're probably the only non-bank agribusiness financier in this country that actually provide funding without hard collateral. We provide funding with inventory, with assignment of receivables, with things that most traditional banks will not accept. But it does not mean that the risk management is weak. So there are two things that happens in funding. If it's very simplified and your risk management, so I just bring any person and person guarantees. The power of a guarantee is the ability for the person to make good on that guarantee if that loan goes bad. So if I just bring somebody on the road that does not even, you don't even know who the person is, or they don't even have the capacity to repay, if that loan has a problem, then that's a bad credit. How lenders like that compensate for it is that they charge very high interest rate. So that if I'm charging 10% per month, I would have factored in those that might go bad. Again, we've said here that for food systems, that's counterproductive. Maybe it can work in another sector, but when we're talking about food systems and solving the problem of food insecurity, that can work because we need to increase production. So what I've said earlier about getting wholesale credit guarantee can work. If like an infra credit or a BOI says, I have this 10 billion credit risk guarantee for food processors that want to borrow money, such that you can borrow it at maybe low double digits or something, then that can work. Then if you meet the process, that guarantee applies to you, that's something that can work. But we're already trying to make it as simplified as possible, right? So that we really, really can provide funding to agribusinesses.
Thank you, Tosin. Fantastic response. I would have loved to take more questions, but we've run out of time. But guess what? The speakers are available during the session. After now, you can always meet them. But I have one more question for the panelists. If you were to, with the limited resources, if you could invest in only one food systems innovation, be it governance, be it whatever, what would that be? In just one sentence, what would that be?
I would say it would be to get quality seed and planting material to farmers, because the information for productivity is in the seed.
So quality seeds to our farmers. What about you?
Local currency, single digits or low double digits, working capital loans to food processors.
All right, so single digits, local currency, not USD, not pounds, Naira loans. Single digit. What about you?
I'll probably invest in post-harvest loss reduction.
Invest in post-harvest loss reduction. So these are action items for many of us in the room for us to take away. I hope you found this session practical and useful. Please feel free to reach out to our speakers for questions. Thank you very much. I think we should take pictures now.
Very insightful panel session. Please, once again, can we give them a round of applause? To the moderator, Vivian Madueke, well done. The managing partner, Food Health Systems Advisory. Thank you. And I could still see so many hands up, trying to ask questions. But like she rightly said, the panelists are still very much around. All you need to is reach out to them. Thank you. And on that note, so we're going to be breaking out at this moment. We're heading for the breakout session. And yes, for those that are interested in the German Development Corporation, please kindly remain in the hall. And while those that are interested in Mercy Corps and then Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, your session rooms are outside. The ushers will direct you. So please, if you are interested in these, you can kindly move to these other rooms. The ushers are right in front of the doors to direct you to the various rooms that you're interested in. The panel sessions are going to be displayed on the screen. Yes, for German Development Corporation, we'll be looking at crop strategies. And for Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, we'll be looking at nutrition and food systems policy action. And for Mercy Corps, it is climate, food insecurity, and conflicts. So whichever one you're interested in, if you're interested in the German Development Corporation, please kindly remain in the hall. And if it's Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, your room is outside. And if it's Mercy Corps as well, your room is outside. Thank you. The ushers are on standby to take you to your various rooms. The one in the hall is the first one. The first one is one in the hall. Yes, that is. Say it again. All right, let me say it again. German Development Corporation remains in this hall, please. Kindly note, German Development Corporation remains in this hall. You can see from